Hello everyone and welcome back to Car Venus 14. Now today we are going to be talking about Wuthering Waves. Well, specifically Jinshi once again because as you all know I'm a pretty big Jinshi main with a very good Jinshi. Now, for those of you that have seen my most recent video, it was a short video, basically literally a few seconds of me going against the Sentinel construct. I think it was the tactical hologram. That's it. Now, in that video, you guys will have seen that I hit 909,000 damage. How on earth did I do that? Well, if you guys saw, I showcased my build, I showcased my stats, I showcased even the rotation that was on there. I started off with Verena, used her echo skill, went on to Jinshi, then went back to Yuan Wu, used his echo skill, went back onto Jinshi and got the double intro. Double intro is very good for Jinshi because of her S3. Now, for those of you that don't know, I do in fact have an S6 R5 Jinshi now. Yeah, thanks to the anniversary patch, I was able to get her weapon all the way to R5 because in her first rerun, I actually got her S6. So I was just waiting for the second rerun to get her R5. Now, Jinshi's S3 is very good because every time she intros onto the field, she gets a stack. And these stacks give her 25% increased attack. So if you double intro onto her, you can get both the stacks straight away, because there's no cooldown for gaining these stacks. As long as you intro onto the field, you will get a stack, right? Now you can have up to a maximum of 2 of them, hence why I was able to get both of them for Jinshi straight away, getting 50% attack. And I even showcased that my attack in that clip went up to like 3,600 attack. Now, that actually did get me thinking about something. I am so close to hitting 1 million on Jinshi, and with my free-to-play team alone, I am capable of hitting 909,000 in the best-case scenario. And just to let you know, if I did actually try this run again, with Jinshi only doing one intro, which is a more, easier intro to do, and my Jinshi still hit very hard, 836,000. That's how much, right? If I crit, obviously. If I don't crit, it's like 374,000 or something, but yeah, with my crit, it's like 836,000. So that got me thinking. My Jinshi is able to hit 909,000 damage with Yuan Wu and Verena. I don't have Shorekeeper, and I don't have someone like Jeji or Cantarella. So that got me thinking. I already know how to make Jinshi even better. But that also got me thinking of something else. Where on earth is Jinshi's best-in-slot sub-DPS? Where is her dedicated support? Camellia has Rochia, Carlotta has Jeji, Frolova, who just recently got announced, like literally 2 to 3 hours ago, as of making this video, which is probably a few hours before the video actually gets released, because my devices take a while to upload the video. So, yeah, by the time you guys are hearing this, it's probably about 6 to 8 hours, depending on when the video actually gets released. Yeah, that's how long ago Frolova was announced. Basically 9 or 10 AM UK time. So Frolova is going to have Cantarella because Frolova is a unit that kind of relies, well, if we're going off of the lore, right, Frolova has seen to manipulate echoes. So obviously someone like Cantarella, who has echo manipulation in her own gameplay, kind of makes sense. And the fact that she buffs Havoc as well, which is what Frolova is, yeah. Also, from what we've seen with that gameplay that got leaked to literally everyone, she seems to be a very heavy skill-dependent character. So even Frolova's gotten Carlotta, right? Yeah. Zhang Liao has Yin Lin. Zani has Phoebe. Cartathea has Chiacona. As you can see, a lot of characters have their best-in-slot sub-DPSs already. Chang Li, who came out in patch 1.1, alongside Jinshi, also has Brant, and she'll be getting Looper alongside, right? So, Chang-Li is eating pretty good with the full fusion team, right? Yeah, how they'll all be quick swapping and helping each other around, right? Yeah. So it's kind of crazy how all the characters around Jinshi that came out have their best in slot sub DPS already. They already have that character. But funnily enough, the only other character alongside Jinshi that doesn't actually have a best in slot sub DPS is Ji Yan. And you know why I find that funny? Ji Yan and Jinshi both use East Asian dragons in their gameplay, right? Ji Yan has Qinglong, and Jinshi has Jue, right? Both of them being East Asian dragons. Of course, Qinglong is actually, well, lore-wise, Qinglong, I believe, serves Jue. Yeah, Qinglong actually serves Jue, and Qinglong is one of the lesser guardian gods of Huanglong, with Jue being the overseer of everything, the absolute sentinel, basically. Yeah, so it's kind of hilarious how both the East Asian Dragon users don't have their best in slot sub DPS yet, right? It's kind of funny how KURO Games did that, especially because KURO is a Chinese company, and Chinese people obviously do appreciate and love the East Asian Dragon a lot. East Asian Dragons in East Asian mythology being the closest entity towards God, so they are revered and worshipped effectively. So it's kind of funny how that's the case. Now, of course, it could be of many things, alright? Jinshi is already insanely powerful, even without her dedicated sub-DPS. I mean, you all saw in that video, my S6R5 Jinshi hit 909,000 with a full free-to-play team, okay? Now, a lot of other people, right, with, you know, if I had Zheji, right, if I had Zheji or Cantarella, though one of those characters alone, I would have gone over 1 million. Easily. I would have hit 1.1 million. Well, nearly hit 1.1 million. Right? Yeah. And if I had Shorekeeper, oh my god, I would have been close to 1.3 million. Maybe even 1.4 million. Right? Yeah. So, where is Jinshi's best in slot sub DPS? Now, this is the main meat of the video, and why I think KURO Games have single-handedly managed to handicap Jinshi in the best possible way. I know, it's an insane juxtaposition, it's an insane contradictory. How do you handicap someone in the best possible way? I mean, think about it. Jinshi's kit in 1.1, when she first came out, what was everyone's reaction? She looks insanely complicated to play. But now we all know that Jinshi is not really that difficult. You just need someone with a different element. You just need a rainbow team with her, basically, apart from Verena, and you're good, right? Yeah, you just want a different element coordinated attacker on the team, along with Verena or Shorekeeper, and it will work quite well. And that's literally Jinshi's gameplay. That's literally it. But behind all of those layers of words hides something that actually does handicap Jinshi. The fact that Jinshi is not like any other resonator in this game. Because let's think of it like this. Zhang Liao, who's his best partner? Well, obviously you got Quickswap Zhang Liao, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Hypercarry Zhang Liao. If you want to play Hypercarry Zhang Liao because you don't know how to Quickswap properly, and by all means that's perfectly fine, but Hypercarry Zhang Liao, Yinlin is his best option, because she buffs Electro damage and she buffs Resonance Liberation damage, which is what, you know, Zhang Liao wants. And what element is Yinlin? Electro. Now, let's look at someone else. Kartathea. Who's her best in slot option? Chiakona. Chiakona buffs aero erosion and aero damage for Kartathea, because Kartathea is an aero character. But what element is Chiakona? She is also an aero unit. Carlotta, resident skill damage dealer and glacier damage dealer. Zheji, glacier damage buffer and a resident skill buffer. She is also glacier. Do you guys see a pattern here? The main DPS has the same element as their sub DPS, or vice versa I should say. The sub DPS has the same element as the main DPS that they want to buff. Now, Why don't they just do that with Jinshi? It's simple. They can't. Because if they do, it won't be as effective. Because remember, everyone, Jinshi has the very unique mechanic where she wants to be on a rainbow composition team. She wants different element characters on her team rather than another Spectro unit. Why? Because Jinshi's incandescent stacks, she can gain them for every single element, different elements. Spectro doesn't work on her because Jinshi herself does Spectro damage. So, alongside the Spectro damage that she is doing, she does not want another Spectro unit because those two Spectros won't add on to each other. It will only just give Jinshi 1 or 2 or 3 stacks with the coordinated attacks and stuff, okay? The reason Verena here works is because Verena provides coordinated attacks, which Jinshi can't do. So Jinshi herself can give her 1 stack every time, but Verena can provide the other 2 stacks, but not the full 3 stacks, because in order for 3 stacks of incandescence to be generated, you need to be like Yuan Wu, a coordinated attack unit with a different element. Verena is a coordinated attack unit, so she can provide 2, but because she's Spectro, she can't provide the final one of a different elemental damage type. Jinshi has Spectro. That's her. Covered. So every instance of Spectro damage that she does will generate 1 incandescent stack. Verena, having coordinated attacks with just Spectro, can only generate 2, because she can do 2 Spectro coordinated attacks, but her third being she can't generate 3 because she is the Spectro element, so all damage that she does, which isn't coordinated attacks, won't count. And Yuan Wu can give the full 3 because he's a different element to Spectro, and he provides coordinated attacks. And that's how Jinshi works. So do you see why it's difficult to make a coordinated attacker that is Spectro? Because they won't be able to generate incandescent stacks efficiently with Jinshi. They just won't be able to. And this character would need to have a Spectro damage buff, a resonance skill buff, coordinated attack, okay? And yeah, that's about it, basically. But there's another huge problem with that. Let's say KURO does release that character. Now, this character is, let's say, Yuan Wu. So Yuan Wu is a Spectro damage buffer and a resonance skill buffer on their outro, while also providing coordinated attacks. So the coordinated attacks are there, okay? The resonance skill buff and the, Spectro damage buff, they are there, okay? But you've got 2 issues here. The first issue, they won't be able to generate a lot of incandescent stacks on their own. So you would need a second coordinated attacker or a second unit on the team that gives some form of incandescent stacks through regular damage or coordinated attack damage, right? Yeah. But an even bigger problem that this character does introduce is if you have a unit that gives Spectro damage bonus, resonance skill damage bonus as well on their outro, and coordinated attacks, what happens to Verena? She's completely useless now. Because, remember, Verena's unique selling point with Jinshi is the fact that she can provide coordinated attacks as well as buffs. But if this character comes out, the coordinated attacks that Verena gives won't do anything for incandescent stack generation. And the buffs will also be not really needed anymore, because the buffs that this character provides will just be better. Because what buffs does Verena provide for Jinshi? A 15% damage amplification.
I wonder how they're
and that's about it. Of course, there's the echo sets as well, but we're not taking those into account because that's not what the character's own kit can do. All Jinshi can really do is a 15% damage amplification. And if you have her S4, another 15% Spectro damage bonus. If you have her S4, which, of course, most people, or some people, don't actually have her S4. And even then, a 15% Spectro damage bonus compared to a 20% Spectro damage bonus is literally worse, right? So you can't even justify stacking both of them together, alright? And yes, you could say something like, oh, well, what about Verena's healing? Verena's healing would definitely come in clutch, but that means Verena is just there to be a heal bot and a 15% damage amplification unit. Is that really worth having a 4th spot on? Honestly, it's really down to you, because you could have someone like Brant on this team, and Brant would work insanely well with this Spectro coordinated attacker that buffs Jinshi perfectly, right? You can genuinely do that because Brant will heal and he also provides a shield. So he provides better defensive capabilities than Verena does at this point. Yeah. Oh, well, okay, Verena gives you the, Verena does give you that 15% damage amplification, but does that really matter when someone like Bronn is just doing more damage than Verena anyway, so the team damage is already up there? You see what I mean? If this character gets introduced, Verena becomes quite redundant, right? She doesn't become completely useless, right, for Jinshi, because there is the healing, you can argue, but it's like Verena's worth in Jinshi teams goes down by a lot because she just becomes a heal bot, right? And I know what you're thinking. Well, what about Shorekeeper? Shorekeeper isn't affected as much as someone like Verena because Shorekeeper's main selling point is the buffs that she provides. 12.5 up to 12.5% crit rate with a 25% crit damage bonus. And if you have her S2 and her signature weapon, that's even more buffing that she's giving, right? Yeah. So Shorekeeper isn't really affected as much with this change, but someone like Verena is. And of course, if you're like me, who doesn't have Verena, who doesn't have Shorekeeper, that's a bit of a problem. And once again, remember, this coordinated attack buffer, whose Jinshi's best in slot sub DPS, they're not even going to be that good when it comes to generating coordinated attacks for Jinshi, because remember, their efficiency is already cut in half by the fact of them being Spectro, so they can't provide Spectro damage incandescent stacks, because Jinshi's already doing that herself. The Spectro damage on Spectro damage does not stack together, right? So only the coordinated attacks will be stacking Jinshi's incandescent stack, which means that Jinshi's efficiency in getting coordinated attacks is not going to be as good, alright? So yeah, you see why this is kind of a problem with making a best-in-slot sub-DPS for Jinshi. I know the explanation I did seemed kind of wish-washy and all over the place, but there isn't really an easier way of saying how big of an issue this could be for Jinshi, right? Yeah. Now, what you could do is maybe do what Lupa is doing, right? Lupa is basically a quick-swap unit that is capable of buffing the entire team's fusion damage. You can do that for Jinshi. Make a unit that buffs only her Spectra damage and Resonance skill damage and use a completely different, have a completely different element, right? Yeah, now I know what you're thinking. How on earth could you have a completely different element but buff Spectra? Well, there's a funny thing about that, actually. KURO have already been implementing this, or trying to experiment with it in their game already, right? Remember Lumi in patch 1.4 that came out? Some of you probably forgot about her, but Lumi was a 4-star character with the really nice Scottish accent, which caught me off guard completely. Lumi is an electro unit, but she actually has spectro damage dealing capabilities with her red light and yellow light forte circuit, right? Yeah. So she can switch between those two elements, okay? Also, look at Chiakona. Chiakona, who just recently came out, she's an aero unit who mainly buffs aero damage, but she's capable of applying Spectro Frazzle, giving her a dual identity purpose. A character that can work with Zani and Phoebe, as well as Aero Rover and, Cartathea, right? Yeah, so she's another unit who has one element, but can work or help or benefit two different types of elemental damage, right? Spectro, Frazzle, and Aero Erosion. And now, there's also something else. The new Echo set for Cartathea, the Kelpie. Everyone is going on about it right now because of the fact that the Kelpie's showcase position is literally just JoJo poses, which is pretty damn cool. But anyway, back to the matter at hand. The Kelpie actually has two buffs. It buffs aero damage and glacio damage. But it's not a part of the glacio set. It's not a part of the glacio set, okay? It's not a part of the Glacio set that came out in Huanglong, and it's not a part of the Glacio set that Carlotta uses. It's only a part of the Aero set. Why is that? Could KURO not add the Kelpie to the Frosty Resolve set, which is what Carlotta uses, or the other ones? Why didn't they do it? Is it because they're saving it for a future character that comes out? Are they saving it for a future Echo set that's coming out? I think it's because they might be thinking of adding characters into the game from this point onwards with dual identity elements. Meaning that character is one or the other element, right? So a character that could be this a completely different... Let's say Havoc, alright? This character is the Havoc element, but they are able to buff Spectro as well as Havoc. How on earth would that work? Well, they could have equivalent buffs to Spectro as well as Havoc. Like, their Forte circuit could have something completely different. Like, they could have two different Forte circuits, and it's been done before with Cantarella. Cantarella has her 5 Forte stacks, and then she's got her Shimmer as well underneath that. She's got two different Forte stack mechanics, right, with her kit. So they could definitely do that. Like, they could have like a Havoc mode and a Spectro mode, right? Besides, who wouldn't want an edgy teenage boy that has light and dark powers? That would be cool as heck, right? It's been done before, and it will work again. So, you see what I mean? Like, KURO, I think, are starting to go into this direction of dual element identity characters. So they have one element that they seem to buff quite well, but they also benefit another element as well. Maybe Jinshi would get a support in that manner, or something else entirely, right? So, yeah, because making a support for Jinshi that buffs Spectro and Resonance skill and gives coordinated attacks will make Verena a pretty bad unit. And even then, pairing this character with Shorekeeper, making it a full Spectro team is just not a good idea at all. You'd have to, you know, it's not good for Jinshi's incandescent stack generation. It's really not good. So making another Spectro coordinated attacker is not the right option here, because it's just not efficient for Jinshi. Unless they make it so that this character has a way to bypass Jinshi's mechanic, which is way too specific, right? And I'm not sure if they will actually do that, because it's way too specific. They very well could, but I don't think they will. Okay? So, I think, like I said, one of 3 options with Jinshi's best in slot sub DPS. The first one, this character is going to be your typical coordinated attacker with Spectro, with a Spectro buff outro and a Resonance skill buff outro, right? But they have some form of mechanic to bypass Jinshi's limiting factor of needing to be in a rainbow team, right? Maybe they'll have something in their kit that bypasses that restriction that Jinshi's own kit has, alright? That's option number 1. Option number 2, a unit that isn't necessarily a coordinated attacker, but a dedicated buffer for Jinshi. Someone that buffs Spectro damage and Resonance skill damage, and gives attack and energy regen and other things like that. So someone that specifically buffs Jinshi, okay, doesn't provide coordinated attacks or anything, but specifically buffs Jinshi. And I know what you're thinking. Well, what about coordinated attack generation? That's going to be quite inefficient, no? It won't, because Jinshi and Cantarella, the premium units, are fine on their own, right? To give, you know, a coordinated attack. Even Yuan Wu is fine on his own. So you've got options to give, you know, incandescent stack generation for Jinshi. Both premium and free-to-play options. So she's fine there, right? But the second option, like I said, just giving a character that doesn't give coordinated attacks necessarily, but just buffs the living hell out of Jinshi as much as possible. And the third option is the dual element identity option that I just, you know, told you guys. So someone that is a different element to Jinshi, provides coordinated attacks for Jinshi as well, but has buffs that benefit Resonance skill damage and, you know, Spectro damage in some way or another, right? Some form or another. Or they might not even need to benefit a specific element. Because I remember seeing a few comments saying the Jinshi's best assault on DPS doesn't even need to benefit Spectrum. They just need to buff the living hell out of Resonant skill damage and have some form of attack boost that Jinshi alone would work. But that's kind of difficult to make, because if that character is really good for Jinshi, but they don't buff Spectre in any way, who's to stop that? Who's to stop you from using that character with Carlotta or with Chang Li or with any other Resonant skill damage unit? You see what I mean? Yeah. So this character is going to be quite difficult to make. Will they get made, though? At some point they will. I am a heavy, heavy believer that this character is going to come out. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know how KURO are going to make this character work with Jinshi, but they have to somehow make it work, because Jinshi, at some point, I hate to say it, guys, she's going to be a grandma. She's already turning into a middle-aged woman, alright? Jinshi is an old character, and KURO have done a brilliant job at keeping Jinshi up there in terms of damage. She is still taking over Tower of Adversity, even though she's a patch 1.1 character. She is still insanely good, despite her kit being over nearly a full year old at this point, right? Yeah. So, but sooner or later, these characters will fall. They will go away from the meta. They won't be the powerhouses they once used to be. They won't be the dominating force they once used to be. And if Jinshi really does fall away, this sub-DPS might be the only saving grace that Jinshi has before she completely runs from people's minds. So will Jinshi get this character? She will. And the reason I say that is because KURO loves Jinshi. I mean, they do. It's obvious. Number one, they did an interview with the voice actress for Jinshi, and there's only 3 of these interviews that exist that KURO did, by the way. Right? Yeah, they did one for Ji Yan's voice actor, Lin Yang's voice actor, and Jinshi's voice actor. So, special privilege is there. Number one. Number two, Jinshi's story is absolutely amazing, right? If you guys remember from patch 1.1, the Mount Firmament story was absolutely insane. Now, another thing, Jinshi got a second awakening in the lore, which just turned her into a powerhouse. And she's also the chosen resonator of Jue, who, let's not forget, Jue technically resurrected Jinshi when she died at a young age, which did actually happen. So, yeah. Jue's lore is pretty insane. Jinshi's lore is also pretty insane. Now, another thing is this skin right here. Jinshi is the only character in the game to have a skin that changes her special effects, right? All of her effects are different from the base skin, right? And I'm glad they did that with Jinshi because, well, I mean, they kind of had to. Imagine having this skin, but Jue is just the same blue. It would kill off the aesthetic completely, right? Yeah. So they kind of have to. But see, with Carlotta and with Chang Li, the effects stayed the exact same, right? And people aren't happy about that. But Jinshi, it changed. Why? Because KURO knows that Jinshi is a special character, right? In fact, before Kartathea, right, I would say that Jinshi is probably the love child of KURO. Like, it's, yeah. Like, of course, there's loads of good-looking characters, like Yin Lin and Cantarella and Chang Li. They're the mummy milkers, right? Zani as well, right? But Jinshi has that lovely, childish adoration that KURO genuinely seems to love. Like, they love pampering Jinshi. I mean, they've given her so much, right? They've given her an amazing kit from day one. There's completely no flaws apart from the fact that Jinshi doesn't crit every rotation. But yeah, other than that, Jinshi does amazingly. She's like one of the most perfect DPSs in the game. She's easy to play, she's very safe to play because of her aerial combat prowess, she does a lot of damage, her future investment potential with her sequences and her weapon are so damn good. In fact, her weapon scales so hard, like an exponential increase, alright? And her weapon goes from, at R1, it goes from 48% skill
May I
bonus
pray
to
for anything specific for
96%
you?
at
It would be
R5.
my honor.
What other weapon in the game buffs you that hard? There are probably other weapons
I'm
out there that
sure
I'm
your
just not
wishes
thinking
will
of right
come
now, but
true.
a 96% resonance skill damage buff is ridiculous. Okay? No matter how you look at it. It is insane how high that is. Alright? Yeah. And of course with this skin, like, KURO have not left Jinshi behind. They haven't forgotten about her. She's still up there. She's still delivering. And she will truly become #1 once again. The day her best in slot sub DPS drops will be the
May I
day
pray
she
for anything
makes a
specific for
comeback
you?
and
It
takes
would be my
over once
honor.
again. Sure, Kartathea may be the strongest DPS right now.
I'm sure
Zani
your
is
wishes will
also
come
up
true.
there. But you want to know something? Jinshi is nowhere near behind any of them. She is up there. She is still up there. Even when Carlotta came out. No, sorry. Even when Camellia came out, she was still up there. When Carlotta came out, she is still up there. When Phoebe came out, she was still up there. When Zani came out, she was still up there. And when Kartathea came out, she is still, to this day, up there in terms of damage. Why was she not left behind? Because KURO know how to balance their game. They know how strong Jinshi is supposed to be in the game, representing her lore, representing Huanglong, representing Jue as a Sentinel Resonator. She is up there. And guess what? Why does Kartathea not have Imperator in their gameplay? Even though she is the Sentinel Resonator for Imperator. Because Kartathea was a I'm joking, that's not how it works. But yes, Kartathea's gameplay is really cool. But you want to know something? Kartathea may have an Excalibur, alright? But she has something that Jinshi doesn't. And that something is, well, there's only really one way to say it. That something
Thunder guide us.
is a flipping dragon. An East Asian dragon. Who doesn't find that cool? Having the ability to just use an East Asian dragon in their gameplay.
Take form.
That's not what I wanted to do, but more East Asian dragonness, I guess. Yeah. Like, Jinshi is still one of the best DPSs to get in the game. She has not lost any power at all.
May I pray for anything specific for you? It would be my honor.
What I would wish for is you get a sub DPS
I'm sure your wishes will come true.
as fast as possible. Right? Like, it's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen. Jinshi has not been left out. She will get her best in slot sub DPS one day. It's just that KURO have made it so that she doesn't need that character for right now. There will be a day when this character comes out. But when that character comes out, I have no idea. It could be one of the characters that was actually drip marketed for the Septimont patch. It could be any one of those 5 characters. Or was it 6? I can't remember. But it could be any one of those 6 or 5 characters. Right? It could be any one of them. Or it could be after patch 3.0 in New Federation. We do not know. But Jinshi will get that character. It will happen because I'm gonna mold if they don't. But anyway, guys, that's basically been the video. I've kind of glazed Jinshi a lot and also given my own opinions as to what kind of sub DPS they might go in with for KURO Wuthering Waves with Jinshi.
May I pray
I
for
don't know
anything
what kind of
specific for
sentence
you?
that was supposed
It
to be,
would
but
my honor.
yeah, KURO will give Jinshi that sub DPS because
I'm sure
Jinshi
your
is
wishes will
not
come
complete.
true.
She hasn't got a completed team without that character, and everyone around her, apart from Ji Yan, has a team that is completed, or going to be completed at some point soon, right? Yeah. Jinshi will be complete. She will not stay, you know, she will not stay with a missing piece. She will have someone
May
that
I
comes
pray
out
for anything
that
specific
saves,
for
well,
you?
not saves, but
It would
fixes
be
her.
my honor.
Alright? Not fixes. She's not broken, but she will have someone that
I'm sure your
gives
wishes will come
her
true.
as much power and potential. That missing piece, that missing icing that needs to be drenched over the fat cake, right? She will get that character one day. But until then, all we can do is really speculate, wish, hope, and pray that we get some leaks from KURO or from other people about Jinshi's, you know, best in slot sub DPS. But anyway, guys, I have been Carvenus14 and still am, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.